You're listening to Nurture Your Zest. I'm your host, Ashleigh King, and I will introduce you to a wealth of interesting, fascinating individuals from all walks of life who will share their stories, how they've overcome challenges, and you will find out their top tips for success. Through this podcast, you can gain tips to grow and change your life and the way you see the world, and help you to nurture your zest. Hello and welcome to Nurture Your Zest. Today I have a very special guest. His name is Alex Thompson. The reason Alex is super special to come to this show is because he's been part of my journey since I first started Nurture Your Zest. So I'm so excited to have him here in my new studio, Flamingo Heights. So without further ado, I want to introduce you to Alex. So hi Alex, how are you?
You all right? Not too bad yourself?
I'm good. It's awesome to have you in this space. Yeah.
Thanks for giving in to my hints for so long to come on.
I know, I mean, you've been nagging me a while, haven't you? But also we had, gosh, I went really Geordie there. We had this planned actually before lockdown.
Before you had the studio.
Yeah, you were going to come into the studio and it was before even doing a video podcast. So I think it's worked out waiting.
Definitely.
Because, you know, it's probably a better quality. You get more content than just an audio podcast. So it's really cool to have you here. You were such a big part of Nurture Your Zest in the beginning, writing my first ever press release and just being there when I didn't even know I was going to do a podcast. So that's cool. I'd love to chat actually about how we met. So we met at Founders Friday, right?
Yeah, Founders Friday at Tuss Park. It's called Lancaster's, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was like a networking thing, and I mean, it was a pretty good event. It was once a
Was it the one just before Christmas, I think, because everyone went down to the pub and stuff after,
Yeah,
didn't
they did.
Yeah.
I actually think, so we'd met before Christmas. It was maybe 20, was it 2018 or 2019?
Yeah, it was in the November, December, wasn't it?
Yeah, because I remember you were just about to start you just started your business.
Yeah,
and
literally just started.
Yeah, and he'd asked for like people to kind of go up and talk about their ideas, and you'd talked about your idea, and that's how I became a copywriting client of yours.
Yeah, that's what it was, yeah. So I think it was Alison Reynolds. They said, I want people to talk after the break. And then she came over and she said, I've put your name down. And I was like, oh, really? And she went, because you'll be fine, you should do it. And I was like, right, okay. So went into the toilet cubicle and I was sitting, what the hell am I going to talk about? Scribbled down a few notes. And then I've got about 3 clients out of that talk, I think. So that was really good. And I remember, I went down to the pub after and I was just about to go home. And you said, I was hoping to talk to you about copywriting. And then we're starting, that's when we got properly chatting.
Yeah. So I'm lucky then that I caught you just before you went home. But it's funny how things like that happen with networking and business opportunities. And at that time, I think you were still starting out just as I was. So it was, although you had lots of experience writing, it was that, like, for me, it was that talk you did. It was the passion and the just, you knew your stuff. You know, it was really good and really fun.
Yeah. I've been doing it about a year part-time before that. That was just after I'd went full-time when I was being a teaching assistant at that school. And I won my first client and that was enough. That was like 8 weeks pay temping at the school.
Wow.
So I was just like, right, I'm doing it now. I'm just leaving. And then the day after I handed in my notice there, I found out Kelsey was pregnant. So I nearly changed my mind, but I'm so glad I didn't.
I'm so glad you didn't. It's been awesome to watch your journey. So we've kind of dug straight in because I'm just really excited to have you in the hot seat. But, for those who haven't met you before, we've mentioned you're a copywriter, but who is Alex Thompson?
I'm from Newcastle. Don't even know what to say about this part. I went to uni, all that typical stuff, and I stayed at home for uni, and I remember just being like so jealous of all the students getting off the metro at Jesmond Metro, and I'd be going to Benton to go with my mum and dad's, and I felt like I missed out on that student experience, that uni experience kind of thing. But I got my degree and stuff like that, and it was good. But didn't really make many mates at uni. I had all my friends from home still who I was going out with and stuff like that. So got a job in car insurance after that, which was all right for a couple of years because all I wanted was money when I finished uni because I'd seen my mates having money while I was a student. So that's all I wanted. So, but I got bored of that after a couple of years and I just thought, right, what is the most random thing that I can do? And I found teaching in China. So I just moved to Beijing the next year. Lived there for 2 years teaching English, which was good. But up until that point, I'd always thought I wanted to be a teacher. Like, I used to be dead smug at uni. I was dead smug at school. I went more sixth form and people didn't know what they were doing. I was like, I'm going to be an English teacher. It's what I've always wanted to do. I'm going to be dead good at it and it'll be fine. And then I started teaching English in Beijing, which is really easy. It's not anywhere near as hard as teaching in the UK. And I didn't like the teaching part really. Like, it just annoyed us, and I didn't like sort of the classroom politics and stuff like that between the teachers and things like that, which there wasn't too much of in Beijing. But when I come back and got a job in the school, there was a lot of there. And that's when I was just like, this isn't for me. I like being able to kind of say and do whatever I like and stuff like that, which teaching wise doesn't really mix with sort of being vocal on social media and stuff like that. So, and then my girlfriend, or fiance now, is, I hate saying that word though, I was like, fiance, she was a marketing manager and told us about copywriting. I was like, well, people will pay you to write for them. I thought they did it themselves. And she said, yeah. So started looking it up, did a course in copywriting, and then, yeah, brings me up to kind of when we met Feminist Friday.
Yeah. But I mean, it's amazing hearing some of that journey, because especially because you didn't move away for uni. So to have the experience of living in Newcastle all of your life, around your friends, around your support network, and then going and thrusting yourself not just into a different city in the UK, but actually experiencing another culture and, living eating differently, different customs, different ways of life. I mean, how did it feel for you? Did you feel that there was a culture shock at all?
Yeah, massively, especially in China and Beijing especially as well. Some of the Chinese cities, really Shanghai, Hong Kong, if you class Hong Kong as China, which they do, but most people don't, I suppose. They're more Western, whereas Beijing has still got that traditional side to it, and it was a massive culture shock. But it was good for us, to be honest. Like, when I was younger, I hated change, and like even going from one school year into the next, I'd have to go myself to meet the teacher before the rest of the class and stuff like that, and to be shown the room and meet the teacher, because I'd just be so worried about what the next year was going to be. Like, my mum got us this book, I remember, with a little penguin called Worried Arthur, hoping that I would read it and like spot similarities with it myself, because I was just so worried and overthought everything. And I was a really fussy eater. I wouldn't eat like hardly anything. I think I've told you before, I used to go to McDonald's and order a cheeseburger without the burger, with just a slice of cheese in the bun. Like, I didn't eat chips or anything. I didn't like change, everything the same. So, and I'd had a taste of kind of moving away and traveling when I went around Europe with my friends for 4 weeks. And that was massive for me, because up to that point, I'd stayed at home for uni. Everything was the same. I liked everything in order. And that was kind of, well, I'm going to go to these countries, I don't know what the food's going to be like. That forces to try different things. So China was kind of the next step for that, was me kind of pushing myself out my comfort zone a bit more, in terms of like, I'd never had to go and meet a new friend group, because I had all my friends from school. I'd never really bothered at uni. I had the girls that I was friends with from my course, but didn't really go out of my way to try and do that. Whereas now it's one of the things I love the most, is getting out, meeting new people and things like that. So...
Well, I think this is what I'm listening to, and I'm like, I wouldn't say in shock, but I'm surprised by some of the things you're saying, because you don't strike me as a warrior, as someone who gets anxious, because I think what I know of you is, I know I've been a client of yours as a copywriting client. I know you've done some work with me on your podcast, which we'll chat about. But I think most of the time when I think of you, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so funny. And you might not even mean to be, but it's just pure like banter, right? And it's just that ability to just have a laugh at yourself, but also at other people, like with other people, not at them. Or maybe at them. I mean, I'm thinking particularly sometimes some of the social commentary you make on TikTok or LinkedIn. Makes me giggle, because you say things that maybe other people want to say, but they don't always, just put it out there.
And it's more satire, I suppose, isn't it? I'm never picking on a person. It's more the collective behaviours of people who do a certain thing.
It's more of a social commentary. And I think this is where your English degree or your love of English and English literature or writing will come out, because
not everyone gets satire, but it's one of the, I think it just is what makes you so funny, because you say things so deadpan sometimes, and I'm like, wow, like that it makes me giggle a lot. So yeah, hearing that side of you that feels anxious or went through that when you were younger really strikes me as it's a totally different Alex to what you put out there or what I've seen before. And that makes me quite excited, because I like to see the layers of people. But also we can make assumptions about people that aren't true, or you've grown and evolved. So
I think especially when it comes to like people's personalities as well, they'll be like, everyone's got their normal personality, I suppose, and then their business personality. I think is kind of, for most people, everyone speaks about your authentic self and stuff, but what I take from that most of the time with business is it's kind of an amplified version of yourself that you're with your friends. Like people in business, you are different than you would be with your friends. Like I don't think there's many people who could deny that. And yeah, so I guess it's that kind of situation. If you're going out to meet friends, I probably would be quite a bit nervous and quite sort of shy and quiet at first. Whereas when you're walking into a business event, you're walking in as you're kind of the persona that you're playing online and all of that stuff as well. It's like, it comes with a confidence that you know you're going to be talking about work and things like that, which you know your stuff. So.
But it's true, because with friends, you wouldn't really need to sell yourself. So you actually don't have that, not necessarily ego, that's maybe the wrong word, but you don't need to have that veneer that you might, you know, sometimes as a protection strategy in business networking. Can we talk about friendship actually? So you've got a long-standing friendship group, or you love your mates, you love spending time with your mates. So I know like someone I used to work with, Anna, she'll probably watch this. And she's just excellent banner. I love her so much. But like, for instance, you've got people who you've lived in the same neighborhood, you've been friends for a long time, you really care about your mates. How has it been for you going through being self-employed and changing this direction from I'm going to be a teacher, I know what I'm going to do, and actually that self-exploration? Have your friends come on the journey with you? What do they think of you now?
Some of them have. So they're all... I'll start by saying this, they're all really happy for us. Like they all know I'm doing well. They all like to hear that I'm doing well. But like it actually come up in the group chat the other day. One of them found my one of my TikToks, and he wasn't laughing at us. He just said, "I've got no idea what you do." And like, so I asked them, "What do you think I do?" And a couple of them said, "You build websites," which it's kind of true, because with the developer I work with, Adam Baldwin, we build websites, but I don't do any of the actual website building. My uncle asked him, he says, "You build apps." Never built an app in my life, wouldn't know where to start building apps, but I work with clients who have apps and I help them sell memberships to their app, so that kind of makes sense as well. And most of them, don't have a clue what I do really. They always ask, "How's business?" I say, "Yeah, it's doing well." And they're like, "Oh, class." So they always want to know that I'm doing well. But yeah, they don't know the kind of the finer details or really what it is. And I'll get asked sometimes by them to do things which are, but like, "Can you design a menu for us?" And I'm like, not really. But now and then, some of them will be like, "Oh, you do stuff with words." So they'll say, "Oh, I'm trying to get a job." My friend Huey was like, "I'm trying to get a job as a Sparky's mate or an electrician's apprentice. And I need an email to send out to all of them." So I wrote him an email to send out, and it worked, and he got it. So I can do favours for them like that. They're kind of learning what I do a bit more and a bit more. But yeah, some of them were, especially my mate Dan, was a bit dubious at first about us going self-employed, because he was like, "Well, why would people pick you?" And a lot of those questions, kind of justifying it to my friends, was quite good, because then it helped us kind of in real life if someone had said, "Oh, well, why should I trust you as opposed to someone else that's got more experience?" and those sort of questions. So I found myself explaining myself to them, which then helped us later on. But yeah, in terms of self-employed mates, I don't have many. I've got Matty, who's self-employed music PR. So he kind of understands what I do. But yeah, they're all supportive and stuff like that.
Yeah, I like that. It's interesting what your friends perceive you to do. I mean, I don't think my friends know what I do either. I mean, I do get paid to chat. It's great, but also a lot of it, like Nurture Your Zest, is a complete passion project. So it's not massively, I will monetize it at some point. But right now, I just love chatting and it's great. But my main income's from training, you know, or things like that. So it's interesting because you were saying people don't always know what you do.
Yeah.
Your friends don't always know what you do. So as a client of yours, I can say some of the things that I love that you do. So, I mean, you can do amazing email sequences and you know, getting in people's inboxes, which is really difficult with all the noise and social media. We've mapped out a great email strategy that I will implement at some point when I've got more resource. I'm trying to not turn the marketing machine on right now because it's so busy. Yeah. But one of the things that you do, which has made such a big difference for me, is you write, you know, a landing page copy or website copy or just sales strategy stuff. And so, yeah, I still remember, and I always tell people the story about you. So when we first met, we had a chat, and it was when we decided to start working together. And I'd asked you to help me write a press release, and it was about girls who had businesses in Britain. You know, language has changed a lot. A lot of people don't like that, like girl bosses in the UK or that sort of thing. But actually, you know, I actually think I don't feel offended personally with that term, but it was really interesting because you were like, well, who are you? Like to try and work out how to write this article. And I was thinking, well, I don't know. And what I loved about what you did was we just had a chat and you just asked me about myself, but also about me as a kid and just kind of unlocked all these bits of myself that I'd forgotten. Yeah. So that's how the story of the Chatterbox Club, which I, you know, is one of like my favorite stories, but I was always in detention for chatting. Yeah. And, you know, I was put into this cool club where I could practice those skills and communicate. And you actually found that story, but then you wrote it in a way that would really connect with people. Yeah. And kind of reconnected me with myself, but also helped me to write stuff that it's still me, but I wouldn't have put those things together because I think what you do is you help to... A lot of writers, I think, can just be very surface level, you know, a blog on what is SEO and why does it matter. But what you do, Alex, is you get the story. Yes, everything's got to have like, they call it, I guess, in PR terms, like a newsworthy angle. So I'll usually start by writing, so take, I was doing some consultancy the other day, LaserX in Newburn, they sell office chairs, and they were like, okay, so we'd do an article about how to pick the best office chair. And it's like, yeah, you can do a how-to guide about how to pick the best office chair, or you can reframe it slightly as something like 5 mistakes you made when you bought your last office chair, something like that. And even then, that's not the best, but just by kind of subverting it a little bit, it makes it a little bit more interesting. Like I did one on how to make sure nobody buys your stuff. So instead of a guide of how to use conversion copywriting and all that sort of stuff, flipped it on its head. Like, right, okay, let's pretend that you've bought loads of stock and you don't want to part with any of your precious stock. You don't want anyone to buy your stuff. Here's what you do to make sure no one buys it, and kind of an anti-advice article. And they're the ones that do the best because there's so much like rubbish online. Not swearing, I'll say rubbish. There's so much rubbish online, and which makes it, if you just spend a little bit longer thinking about it and not copying off everyone else, it makes it so much easier to cut through the noise, just because there is just so much of the same old boring stuff. There is, and that's why I love your content. You know, I love reading like your posts on LinkedIn or your TikTok or whatever. But yeah, I mean, again, being a client, one of the things that really helped me is, I've said this on Nurture Your Zest before, and I've said it to you lots of times. So my first business, I mean, I still have the same business, I just changed names, but it was really failing. I spent so much money trying to learn how to do things. What I found was that, so I'd asked you to write some landing page copy for me. Yeah, it was for your sales page. Yeah, and what's really interesting is I tried to use it, and it was really good, and I did get lots of inquiries. But now, it's what I need now. Yeah. And it's stuff I still want to use and am using. So I think it's that gift of being able to write before that person is maybe ready for it. Yeah, so a lot of the time, especially when it comes to like selling yourself, this is what makes it so hard for people to write their own copy. It's not that they don't have the skills to be able to do it. It's that
they're too close to their own business, so they talk about stuff that they think is really amazing. So like software as a service, SaaS companies are really bad for this, especially financial technology and fintech. It's usually a group of really, really clever people. They're usually geeks, like really, really clever people who can create this amazing thing. And because they know so much about it, they're really proud of some of the features. That's not what is going to actually just sell the product. It's not what people care about. And it's the same as that when people come to write for themselves. They get like the selling ick because over years and years, especially in Britain as well, we've been like trained out of selling. Like sales is like it's never time out of sales. Like sales doesn't have to be a dirty word. And I love that side of things as well. When it comes to selling yourself, it's like, oh, I don't want to look too confident. I don't want to look cocky. I don't want to look big-headed. I don't want to look cheeky for asking for someone to do something. But if you look at like kids like Alfie, like when he wants something, he will not stop until he like gets it or he's exhausted all options of getting it. Like his bedtime, he's a master of not going to bed. He knows my favourite story that I like to read him now. He's sussed that out, so he'll go and get that book just for us to try and read him to get him to stay up for even longer. Like in kids, we have that like kind of trained out of us as we get older. And it's sometimes takes someone else to be like, right, I'm going to write this for you. It's going to feel a little bit salesy, a little bit upfront, but this is what you need. In your case, that was the case as well. It felt a bit, when you first read it, you're like, oh, but then like it works and people love the confidence really, but because it's yourself, we have that kind of doubts and that sort of negativity towards it.
But this is it. That's one of, the most amazing things is to have someone you can trust, who's funny, who can make you sound like you.
Yeah.
But also help make you money.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. I think for many people, especially if you're creative or you're very purpose focused with what you do, it's hard to make the sale sometimes, or it's hard to ask for the sale because you feel like money doesn't matter, but actually it does. And I love that about you, is you'll be like, yeah, that's great, Ash, I love reading about this upcycled furniture and the charity shops and all these things, but actually, how do people book you? You know, how do you book the space?
Yeah.
How do you hire?
How much is the space?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's a real gift, and the way you deliver that's so good. So enough fangirling over your copywriting skills, but I do want to ask, you mentioned Alfie there, so Alfie's your little boy.
Yeah.
And I wonder, you mentioned you kind of like put your notice in and then found out that Kelsey was pregnant.
It was like the last, we took all the kids to see Shakespeare play at the Theatre Royal. And then and that was the second last day I had. And when I got back from that, that's when she told us. So then I was sitting at work on the last day and everyone was going like, oh, we thought like, you thought we'd be bouncing around here, excited to get out. And I was like, yeah, just kind of processing the news. I was really happy, but just processing the news. And I was just thinking, right, should I be leaving this job? But I mean, if I hadn't, they would have got rid of us as soon as COVID started, like literally 3 months later. So it was the right thing to do then, because I was already 4 months ahead of what I would have been. I was not established, but I was starting to get leads coming in from LinkedIn by the time COVID really hit in like July time. So yeah.
So how has being a father changed you?
I'd say I'm a lot more patient. Like I'm patient with everyone else. I'm not patient with myself at all, and just learning how to be a father and everything that comes with it, because it's so mind-blowing at first. Like even going to buy a pram, like you don't know what the hell, you don't know what you're looking for or anything like that. It's like, it's just so much stuff going on at once. So yeah, learning to be patient with him as well as he's learning to do things. And that's one of the main things, I guess. But yeah, it's just so good.
Oh, I love hearing it. It's so nice. It's so nice to hear. And I'm sure there's lots of like no sleep nights and all those things. You
just forget about that though. Yeah. Like the first 6 months is so hard, but then you just forget about it until you see someone else going through it. Like we're talking to Paul and he was talking about, not sleeping. I was like, I forgot about all that. You're just constantly like thinking about what they're doing now and what they're doing next, and you just forget about all that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's so hard in the first 6 months.
Absolutely, bless you. Well, that's really, really exciting. I want to know what really bugs you about copywriting. Or like the gurus you see. So you mentioned you've written a course. Sorry, you went on a course, and I actually think if you did a course, I mean, I would buy that. Yeah. So what bugs you about?
I think it is that it's the the lack of respect I think a lot of people show the profession, and that's not by normal business owners, not at all. It's the people who think that they can take a 1 hour course in copywriting and then go and start charging people money for it. So TikTok's horrendous for it, and that's one of the things I'm kind of setting out to change on TikTok, I suppose, with my content, is it's all, have you heard of this side hustle? It's called copywriting. Here's how to get into it. Find a 1 hour course on copywriting, and then it's like, make an Upwork account, start earning 6 figures a month doing copywriting. It's just like, it literally doesn't work like that. Like, it takes so long. It took me a year to do my course. Yes, there's copywriters that say you don't need to do a course, but I think everyone should do one because it just teaches you the foundations, and there's only so much you can learn from a book. Like, reading about something and actually being able to do it are so different. So with the course I did, you get feedback from a copywriter on your writing, and that's what you are paying for, not really the course content. The course content for a lot of the modules was pretty outdated and not that good, but it was that feedback that you are paying for. And yeah, it's that sort of seeing it as a side hustle. And like, I should say, like, people do it as a side hustle. I hate the word side hustle, but like part-time on a night. I did that for a year, and if people are starting out, they should do that as well, until they've either got 3 to 6 months worth of money saved, or they've got a couple of clients under their belt, monthly clients that they can rely on going forward. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. That's what you should do. But these people who see it as they see it as a money grab, and they've got no actual intention of getting good results for the clients. All they want to do is find a client and charge them money for writing and send them some writing. Then they're like out. Whereas like, that's what gives, there's people who've probably had their fingers burned by those rubbish copywriters before. That's what I hate about it.
But yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that I really like about working with you is that you have that research element, and you don't get that from some of the automated tools that you get.
No, definitely not. So like Copy AI and Jasper and stuff like that, like from what I've been told, like as a point, I don't use them obviously, but they're quite good for brainstorming initial ideas, I've heard. But when it comes to actually writing sales copy, one of the most important parts of my process and most good copywriters' processes will be like the customer research element. So what I'll do is I'll have a kickoff call with a client, and then after that, the first thing I do is ask for 10 to 15 of their customers' contact details, and I'll give them a ring, and I'll go through a few questions that I've got to get some feedback about what they particularly like about my client, what was the reason that made them say yes, if they had any questions they needed an answer to before they could say yes, among a few other things, because that gives you a good indication is not just what the business owner thinks is important, but what actually a paying customer thought was important, because most of the time they'll be so different, and automated software is not going to be able to do that. It's going to give you a blanket kind of responsive thing that might have worked for someone, but everyone's business is different, everyone's customers are different, so they're just like, I'm not worried about it at all. I think content writers probably will be a little bit worried, because from what I've heard in the last year, the content writing capabilities of some of this AI has really come a long way for writing blogs, especially for some of these like content mills, which just smash out so much content every day for these big blog websites. But then if you're a good content writer, you wouldn't be doing that much at that cost price anyway. So I guess they shouldn't be worried. What it might do, hopefully, is wipe out all of those crap copywriters that we were talking about, who are just in it for the money, just want to find clients to charge them money, and that's all they want from it. They're not interested in their clients' results. If it wipes out all those sort of people, then that's a good thing in my book, because it makes it better for the rest of us who take their profession seriously.
Absolutely, and I love that you take it seriously. And honestly, you've already sold me again, because I know that I work with so many clients with podcasting, but sometimes I struggle to ask them for testimonials, or to find out what I do for them that actually helps their ideas develop. Yeah. So I'm gonna hire you for a piece on that to interview my clients, because I mean, I've worked with over 50 people this year on their podcast ideas, whether that's training or with clients. Yeah. And I don't know what the answers are to that. Yeah. So I think that is a piece that I would love to work with you on. You've got
to do it on the phone. I've tried to do an email before, and people just send you they send you a testimonial back. That's not what you're looking for though. You're looking for the funny turns of phrase that just come to people naturally, that no matter how good a copywriter you are, you would never have thought to have worded it like that. And they're the little bit of gold dust that you're looking for, because that's voice of customer research. That's what makes a website unique and really memorable, is these little turns of phrase that just you wouldn't never have thought of otherwise.
Perfect. So I would love to hear a bit about a podcast you've been working on. And I'll let you share, because I don't want to tell too many secrets. But for anyone listening or watching, it may even be launched by the time it's out. We will put it in the show notes.
So you've been a really big help with us for this. So like a lot of creatives, I start a lot of projects and don't finish many of them. I'm really, really bad for that. And this is one where I really do want to see it through. So what I'll usually do is I'll have an idea, I'll tell people about the idea, everyone will tell us that the idea is really good. And then in my mind, I've done it. I've been like, oh, I had a good idea, and yeah, if I did it, it would be good. I don't actually do it, whereas like the idea is nothing really, it's obviously in the delivery. So yeah, it's going to be called Copy Crack. So it's not a new, probably will be a new business further down the line. And it's going to be a newsletter. So it's mainly aimed at helping copywriters and content writers be better at their job, have more fun doing their job as well. I was going to say make more money from the job, but it's not all about the money. It's more like be better and have more fun doing it, I'd say. Because a lot of the time with copywriters and content writers, they're really good at the actual job, but the business side of things, they don't invest in that side, and they don't realize that being the business owner and working for the business as a copywriter are two very different things. And from the start, that's one of the things I really wanted to kind of hone in on my own business journey. Is like, I work with Ford Henderson. I've been working with him for over a year. He's my business coach. He is essentially a board exec member. So I prepare all of my numbers for him every month. This is what I've done this month. This is what's in the pipeline for the next 90 days. If he wasn't coming into my office, I would never do stuff like that. And it's like any other skill. If you don't learn the skill of being a business owner, if no one's ever taught you it, even if you've never learned it, how are you meant to know what to do? So yeah, it's more the business side, because I do some copywriting coaching with some other copywriters, and most of the stuff that I help them with is like, how do I find clients? A client said this, how do I deal with that? Like, I got 3 messages this morning from other copywriters. Can you give us your advice? This has happened with their own clients and stuff like that. I think I'm a good copywriter, but I think I'm better at the businessy side of it and helping people through that. So if people want to learn copywriting, there's better resources to go to than me. There's like, if people want to learn headlines, they should go to Dan Nelkin. If they want to do a copywriting course, they're going to get more for their money out of doing a full copywriting course than paying me for weekly coaching. But it's more the business side of it, and that's what we're going to be looking at. So I'm going to get Ford's coming on to do some an episode on do copywriters need a business plan. Neville Timeout's going to come on, do something about sales. I've got Kuldeep coming on, who's made loads of money from freelancer websites, which is something that I hate, freelancer websites, but he's made it work for him. So I'm going to have him coming on about that. And it's all designed to, it'll be like a topic each week, like a question a lot of copywriters, content writers, freelancers, I suppose, face as well. And we'll be helping them through that in each episode.
Yeah, and I know an important part of any podcast is monetization. So one of the things we've discussed is, sure, it's great to give a few tips, but some of those resources you might actually have behind a paywall, or you might explore.
Yeah, so like, I mean, it's my job as a copywriter, kind of sales funnels is what I do now as well. So yeah, the podcast will be another top of funnel thing, basically, that'll feed into an email list or a free download. And then eventually I've got plans for sort of training workshops and things like that, especially around website copywriting. A lot of copywriters avoid website copywriting because it's really high pressured. It's really hard to get right. It's my bread and butter. I've done it for the last 2-3 years, like at least a website a month, sometimes a website a week. That was too hard. So a website every 2 weeks I do now. And I've got a process. I know it works. I know my clients are happy it's getting them results. So it's now me packaging that up and selling on to people. But it's always hard with that sort of stuff and the positioning, because you don't want to fall into here's how you can make 6 figures doing this sort of stuff.
But I think this is exciting because the other thing, when you've been scoping out this idea, I mean, you've really worked hard on this plan for the podcast, and there are lots of other resources for copywriters out there, but a lot of them are very American.
Yeah.
They're very much theory focused.
Yeah.
And actually not necessarily addressing some of the issues that real copywriters are dealing with every day, but also helping with that business readiness, the knowledge sharing that you'll be doing. And I think that's really exciting because, as you mentioned before, there are frustrations around professionalism in the industry. So you're actually uplifting that industry, and that's really exciting, but doing it in such a funny way, which I'm really excited about.
That's it. So a lot of the advice for copywriters out there, especially on these podcasts, are from A-list copywriters who they're not in the thick of it anymore. They sell courses, they do talks, they're guest on podcasts. Because of how established they are, the advice they give, while it's good advice, isn't applicable to your average copywriter who's in the first couple of years of business, who is not going to walk into a bar that is full of your clients' potential customers, buy them all a drink and ask them questions about your client's product, right? The old books like Gary Halbert and Dan Kennedy and all that tell you to do. You're just not going to do that now. It's just like such pointless advice, because it's just no one's going to do that. Writing 100 headlines for every single page. Like you need to get a good enough at headlines so that you can get to a good enough one quicker than that if you're an average everyday working copywriter. So it's going to be like real world advice of what can actually be applicable and not the kind of fluffy stuff that the A-listers say should do.
I like that. I like that you're challenging the status quo. So my last question, which is a really important one, what's your number one word or one way that you nurture your zest?
I go with change, I think, especially because I was so resistant to it and hated it so much when I was younger. And now I need it. I need new clients. I need a new challenge. So
I love that. I love that evolution of yourself as a person, as a father, as a copywriter, as someone who wanted to be a teacher and knew everything that was mapped out for them. Yeah. And now you have a whole new world. So that's super exciting. Okay. Well, that's all we've got time for today. So thanks not only for coming in, but also for supporting Nurture Your Zest from the beginning.
You've been listening to Nurture Your Zest, and I've been your host, Ashleigh King. You can find us online on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Nurture Your Zest, as well as our website and YouTube channel. If you've liked our episode today, please give us a follow or leave a review or any comments. We love reading these. We look forward to catching up with you again soon as you learn to nurture your zest.